It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's early on in the new NHL season, but it's never too early to get away from some players on some bad starts. We're taking a look at players falling short of expectations early on in this fantasy season. Tage Thompson, Timo Meier, and others. And of course, our loaded big-time bets for Thursday night. Tap in, tune in, and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, holding you down Monday through Friday for all of your fantasy and degenerate gambling breakdown needs. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. My goodness, Steele, we're already 2 weeks deep. We're already ready for some overreactions. And we're ready to take a look at some players that we had set high expectations for. It's only a couple of games in. Some of these players have only gotten 3 under their belts. But I'm a little bit concerned already about some of these players that a lot of us out there in the fantasy GM realm have invested into. Tage Thompson, of course. Timo Meier, I want to talk about. You got some names on the board here. Jake DeBrusk, Roman Josi, which I really love. But I think the main takeaway is here. Keep tabs on these players. You might want to be also targeting some GMs that have these guys for a buy low situation. Who are you looking at first? Let's talk about that, because at the end of the day, getting away from some of these players is not what I'm saying you necessarily need to do right away, but you need to have your eyes peeled on these situations, because if they start to unravel, you're going to need to get to creative with your lineup.
Yeah, very creative, and maybe facilitating a trade of some sort as well. If these players aren't living up to expectations, you might have to take a little bit of an L or a loss on this player if they don't start picking up the pace. Again, we're only a week and a half into the NHL season,
of course.
So we're getting after it, and hopefully these players are going to get after it soon. I see you have Tage Thompson on the list. I also have a Buffalo Sabre on my list who has not been meeting expectations. And that's Dylan Cozens. I got to start off with Cozens right now, because I was really big on this guy last year. I was really hoping that he'd start off. Again, it's only been 3 games in the season for the Buffalo Sabres, but he was unnoticeable through the first 3 games up until the overtime game winner against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where he eventually scored that game winner. Only 1 goal, 1 point in those 3 games. He's -4. Again, only getting 15 minutes of ice time, so he's down a minute and a half from last year. Again, it's only 3 games into the season, but 6 shots, 5 hits, 0 blocks. I thought Dylan Cozens was going to come out guns a-blazing with Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, Jeff Skinner, Alex Tuch. It just hasn't really worked out that way to start the year in the first 3 games for Dylan Cozens, the Buffalo Sabres. He's the second line center between Peyton Krebs and JJ Peterka. So maybe there's still some chemistry trying to figure out with Peyton Krebs right now. They might be switching up the lineups a little bit in the first couple of games. But to me, Dylan Cozens hasn't been noticeable out there, along with Tage Thompson. And I know you're going to get to him right now.
The Buffalo Sabres are off to a slow start, and I think what's clear, we don't need to keep mentioning it because it is a fact, is that we're only a week and a half in. But what we do need to mention is these were players that we were really expecting to come out and blow the doors off the league from start to finish. Can that still happen? Of course. Are you dropping these guys? No way in HE double toothpicks. But what the main point is, keep your eyes peeled, because also, like I alluded to, if this is a situation where you see some of these players on another team and a GM might be getting frustrated, you might be able to knock down on that door a couple of times with some trade offers and pry a player, maybe like Tage Thompson, on a cold start who will heat up. 0 goals, 0 assists, 12 shots on net, a -3 This was a guy, Steele, that went very, very high in drafts, end of the first round, middle back of the first round, latest second round after 94 points last year, 38 goals the year before, and clearly is stepping out from a player that before that hadn't established himself in a good run out in the NHL. But Buffalo overall, Steele, has had their struggles. Devin Levi needs to be better as well. I think it's going to happen for the Sabres in a hurry. The 3-game sample size is not enough for me to push the panic button yet. But Tage Thompson, definitely so far underachieving, not meeting up to expectations, like every single other player that I have on this list. You're on mute, I think, brother.
There we go.
Mute
button was sticky a little bit. But yeah, it's just, again, we're only 3, 2, 4 games into the season right now. Some teams are excelling, like the Vegas Golden Knights, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Ottawa Senators have been great other than their besides game 1. So the Colorado Avalanche are 3-0-0 right now. So the teams are excelling right now. And again, we're only 2, 3, 4 games in the season. But when you talk about superstars and you talk about these young prospects and young guys coming into their own in the NHL, you want them to start off hot. You need them to start off hot, especially in fantasy week when you're going up against a pretty stacked up lineup in your weekly matchup. So with Tage Thompson, we know it's going to be difficult. They have a rookie goaltender in Devin Levi. I still believe in this kid. A big W against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but
they needed that.
A lot of it's going to depend on their offensive game because we know they struggled defensively sometimes. They scored they were one of the top goals for it last year. So they got to continue that, and they got to
third in the league, I believe.
Third in the league last year. So they got to get back to that grind last year. And again, this is just a poor start for Buffalo.
What is another poor start, though, is a goaltender I've been looking at, Steele, a guy that just secured his money in Connor Hellebuyck. And again, this is a guy who's proven in his career to be a gamer, and he can be streaky. The Winnipeg Jets are dealing with some injuries already. They're dealing with some inconsistent play, but a 4.38 goals against and an 843 save percentage. He's allowed 4 or 5 goals in every one of his starts. I know they squeaked out a win, but realistically, this team could also be 0-3. He is going to have to be a leader, not only for the success of your fantasy team, but for the success of this Winnipeg Jets club. We knew that they gave the bag to Scheifele and Hellebuyck to secure the future here in Winnipeg. This is a slow start, and honestly, not one that I expected from Hellebuyck because I thought all of this noise now being put away with the contract situation, things seemingly are a little bit more of a fresh change in Winnipeg. That's at least what we were buying into. Let's see what happens, but I'm a little bit wary of the slow start from Connor Hellebuyck, and those numbers are not good.
No, they aren't good whatsoever. And again, I've spoken very highly of Connor Hellebuyck.
For good reason.
For good reason. He's been one of the best goaltenders fantasy-wise and just overall in the NHL to have. He is one of the best up there, maybe the best for fantasy hockey because the Winnipeg Jets face a ton of shots. Again, and he's just always been a top 3 guy over the last 5 years.
Actually, very interesting that you mentioned that, Steele. How about that? Shots against 21, 33, and 29 over the first 3. Are they maybe not letting him see enough rubber? Because that's how he settles in and gets comfortable. We know this guy eats up pucks. So that could be a little interesting caveat there, but just one I had to throw it when you mentioned the shots on net. Yeah, that's not a lot. That's not what he's used to.
It's not what he's used to. And again, maybe that is something that again, you don't want to put.
No, of course not. Just a little interesting angle.
On net, but it is an interesting angle. But Connor Hellebuyck, again, 3 games in, I haven't seen the best out of him.
We will see if he can bounce back. Who else are you looking at here? I know I got a couple of other juicy names at the start of this season that need to be better, but also it's because of how high of the expectations that they've set for themselves by being absolute fantasy studs. And over the past number of years, and with another one of these players only in a smaller sample size, but still, that's the main point here is these are elite pieces. We're not looking at bottom 4th, bottom 6ers here and thinking, oh, they need to be better. These are elite, top line, number 1 goalies, number 1 D-men that need to be a lot better. But who's next on your list?
Next on my list, we're kind of staying in this Eastern Conference right now, the Atlantic Conference, actually. It's Jake DeBrusk of the Boston Bruins. Again, short, small sample size, only 2 games for the Boston Bruins. But in those 2 games, they've only scored 6 goals, and that was against the Chicago Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators. And we know it's going to be difficult for them, but just looking at their lineup right now, like this is a bad Boston Bruins forward group. Besides David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand, I mean, like, you've got Matthew Portress, who I've never heard of, centering the second line with Morgan Geekie. Trent Frederick, Charlie Coyle, and James Van Riemsdyk make up the third line. Milan Lucic and John Beecher and Jacob Lacko making up the fourth line. This really depends on David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand. And we don't know how much longer we're going to get Brad Marchand for. He's 36, he's up there in age. I believe he's 36 years old anyway. But Jake DeBrusk is one of those guys. He's 27 years old right now. He's just getting into his prime, or he's in his prime. Again, 2 games into the season, no points to show for it, only 6 shots on net, no blocks, no hits. He needs to be a gamer for the Boston Bruins. He really needs to be a driving force alongside Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. And again, 2 games in the season, but you're going up against Chicago and Nashville. It just seems like you got to put on a little bit more of a dominant performance offensively. I know they're a defensive team, Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman getting it done. Again, I expect more of Jake DeBrusk.
It's funny because we've been so hard on these Bruins. They're still top of the division, 2-0. The offensive output is interesting, and that might end up catching up to them because so far 2 wins are 2 wins. But from the fantasy angle, we were pumping DeBrusk tires with a lot of opportunity to come in and eat some minutes left by the void of David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron in that top 6. Can he still do it? The book is out, but we've also known that over the course of his career and the limited opportunities he has been provided, he hasn't taken the reins with those either. We'll come back after the break and take the reins with a few more players that are underachieving currently to kick off this NHL season. But one of our friends that isn't underachieving, it's FanDuel Sportsbook. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Steele and I have been hitting our same-game parlays. Thursday night, we love banging out these same-game parlays, all the great options that you can sink your teeth into on FanDuel, including spreads, player props, over and unders. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options to choose from. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season in style. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
What's up, guys? Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils here, and let me tell you something about Discover. If you like using your debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cashback on everyday purchases. That means you can get cashback on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. And back to our team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I got to talk about these 2 players right now. I'm going to pair them both up. But it's Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi.
Sure.
Specifically, Max Domi. Again, I have not noticed him one time in the 3 games that Toronto's played so far this season. He's been unnoticeable out there. He's been invisible. He's only got 1 assist. I'm pretty sure that was a secondary assist. Only 1 hit, 1 block. Again, it's very surprising. A player from Max Domi who really likes to fight hasn't put up more than 22 hits in a season in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
this guy. It doesn't make sense that a guy who really likes to instigate, really likes to get under the skin of other people, other players, and drop the gloves, isn't actually very physical and lays the body out there. So Max Domi's just been practically invisible out there in the first 3 games. And Tyler Bertuzzi, again, he's +3, has 1 goal, couple of blocks, couple of hits, or 2 blocks, 4 hits, 9 shots on net. So the peripherals are okay to start in 3 games. But everything that I've seen from him so far in these first 3 games, he looks absolutely terrified to be playing with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. He's never ready. His stick is never on the ice. The puck is jumping over his blade. He can't get a single pass off. He just looks scared, which it doesn't make any sense from a guy of Tyler Bertuzzi's caliber and what he can do when he's playing with top tier players. I think Austin Matthews' shadow is just too big for him because he looks terrified out there.
Interesting. I think I saw something in your tweet about him being a double agent or something like that out there. Tyler Bertuzzi is definitely one of the darling names in the offseason, not just for Toronto fans, but of ads in the offseason to situations that were going to really set him up for success, fantasy or otherwise. So the eyes are on him. Fantasy GMs are ready for some performance from a guy that a lot of people went out there and got. And I think that was very similar case with Max Domi. Going into what we thought was going to be a good situation. I know not a lot of year-to-year leagues he wasn't out there. He was drafted in most leagues this season, definitely near the back end of drafts. The pressure is also on in Toronto to win. And Ty Domi, being Ty Domi's son, comes with a lot in Toronto. We're not going to talk about the Domis any longer. Both of them have been disappointing. Both of them came into this year thinking that, well, a lot of fans thinking that this was going to be some nice ads from into the Toronto mix in the forward group. We will see what happens, though, but so far they've definitely both underachieved. And how about the Seattle Kraken? Underachieving big time. Coming into this season, you were very high on this team last year, proving people wrong that they were they were for real. Yeah, they're an expansion team, but they're for real. And one of the big reasons was Matty Beniers. And Matty Beniers has put up an absolute zeros across the board so far in 4 games, 0 goals, 0 assists. How about only 6 shots on net? Last year, I know 172 isn't a ton, it was, something like, 160. I know that's not a ton, and he's got to shoot the puck even more. But 6 shots through 4 games when you are as talented as this young man is. He's only 20 years old. This is early start to the season. But the expectations were high in Seattle, especially Steele. This was the 4th most potent offense last year, finishing 4th right behind those Buffalo Sabres, Boston Bruins, and I believe Toronto Maple Leafs for the most goals in the NHL. So disappointment abound right now for this Seattle club. Philip Grubauer needs to be better. But I know Matty Beniers GMs are getting itchy with a lack of performance from this kid already.
Philip Grubauer has actually been pretty decent so far. They haven't been blown out of the park in their first 4 games, but I'm with you. I don't have just one player from the Seattle Kraken. I legit just have the Seattle Kraken on my list right now because they've played 4 games and they only have 3 goals to show for it in 4 games. So the entire offensive production right now has been completely off to start the season for Seattle. Jared McCann's got 1 goal or 1 point. Matty Beniers has nothing. Again, 3 goals in their first 4 games. They're 0-3-1 to start the year. That is a terrible start for the Seattle Kraken, who, again, after what they were able to accomplish last year with a lot of haters and a lot of doubters, not expecting them to even be a playoff team, not even get past the first round. This is a tough look for them starting 2023-24 season. So, again, it's not like they've been blown out of the water. They've been one of the most shooting teams on net for this season. I believe they're 4th in shots on net to start the year. Again, there's only 4 games that have been played for each team. But nonetheless, they're putting the puck on net. Just being able to capitalize on those chances have not been great for the Seattle Kraken.
Seattle Kraken currently I'm looking at shots per game. Where are the Kraken? My goodness.
I believe they're top 4, top 5 at least right now on shots on net for to start the season.
So, shots on net might be different. Shots per game played, they're shooting 31 just over. Anyway, the point is here, the whole team is disappointing, and I like that you highlighted it that way. Matty Beniers was one of the focal points for me, but the whole team falls into the bucket, so thank you for doing that quite nicely. Very quickly, 2 guys. Timo Meier, number 1, he got benched the other night. He's got no point steals, 0 goals, 0 assists, 4, let me just make sure, 4 shots on net. This guy is the prototypical power forward. He's in the mix with a bunch of really good players in that top 6 in New Jersey, and there is no excuse for this one, in my opinion. He might be, if this was a ranking, which it isn't, we're just throwing out names, he might be the biggest disappointment for me in terms of expectations so far this season, just based on what he's been, able to do over the last couple of years and who he gets to play with in New Jersey. And very quickly, I know the Nashville Predators around him have not been great, but Juuse Saros is not a goaltender right now with a current .888 save percentage and almost 3.50 goals against. He is not that kind of goalie. Actually, he's a goalie that only a couple of years removed from almost a .930 save percentage and How about 6th in Vezina 3 years ago, 3rd in Vezina 2 years ago, and last year, 4th in Vezina voting? This is not Vezina level. He's falling short of expectations early, and he falls right into the bucket with a lot of these other guys that you want to be eyes peeled on these situations, because I can almost guarantee all of these guys were taken in the first 5 rounds, maybe a little bit later if it's Saros, but otherwise you have a lot invested into these pieces, Steele. So be wary of what you're doing with them and how long you're hanging on to them should this prolong a month or 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah, big investments for a lot of these players, just like this next player who also comes from the Nashville Predators, but we'll get to that after our sponsor from Juuse Medical. This episode is also brought to you by Juuse Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Juuse Medical offers the Juuse case. The Juuse case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Juuse Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Juuse Medical is very simple to use. All you got to do is go online, fill out a form, and then you get prescription life-saving medications right to your doorstep. The Juuse case gives you the peace of mind that you are dying to need. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting the life-saving antibiotics with Juuse Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at the checkout on JuiceMedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON.
This fall, stream your favorites and discover more with Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus together. Watch the highly anticipated new season of Loki and see the ghosts materialize in Haunted Mansion on Disney Plus. Catch more frights with The Boogeyman and American Horror Story Delicate on Hulu. And on ESPN Plus, get into the action with college football and NFL. All of these and more streaming now. Get the Disney Bundle with plans starting at $9.99 a month. Plans with ESPN Plus starting at $14.99 a month. Terms apply. See DisneyBundle.com for details.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Please continue to hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time is when you can find all of our episodes. And again, thank you so much. We hope that you're enjoying all of the fantasy hockey and hockey content that Big Flip Livingstone and your boy Steele Roden are providing, again, 5 days a week. I got one last player before big time bets. He also comes from the Nashville Predators, and that's Roman Josi, the captain for the Nashville Predators. 4 games in, has 1 assist, -2. But this is the great thing about Roman Josi and a lot of these players that we're talking about is that they're still providing some, providing peripheral stats that are great. 16 shots, 5 blocks, and 2 hits for Roman Josi in 4 games. This guy loves to shoot the puck from the blue line, but he needs to do a lot more to get his team going into the game early. Again, this is a different looking Nashville Predators team than what we've seen over the last 3 years. A lot of young guys, Juuso Parssinen, Cody Glass, Philip Tomasino, Kiefer Sherwood, Thomas Novak, Luke Galasista, Yakov Trenin as well. Sorry, I kind of butchered that last
I think it's Evangelista, but I know
Evangelista. Everyone knows I got to work on my pronunciation.
That's
for
okay.
Some of these guys.
That's what we're here for.
Nonetheless, is that this is a different looking team, as well as Luke Schen's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks as well. That's with a lower body injury. But nonetheless, they lose a couple of guys. Ryan Johansson's gone. Matt Duchene's gone. It's a different looking team. Juuse Saros has not been what we expect out of him, like you provided, just a couple of minutes ago. Roman Josi is the captain of this team. He's probably the best player for the team. I know Juuse Saros and Philip Forsberg are up there, but Roman Josi has been the powerhouse on the blue line for his entire career over the last 13 seasons. He gets it done offensively, 59 points in 67 games last year. Again, 270 shots in 67 games. That's over, I believe that's 4.1 or 4.2 shots per game. He's continuing to do that. So the peripheral stats are there, But again, you got to get it done offensively, and we know that they're going to struggle at times to get it done offensively. So he's got to get his team engaged into the game a lot sooner to begin the periods than what we've seen so far in the first 4 games. But again, a lot of these guys that we're talking about, you're not going to be dropping them. You're not even looking towards trading them as of right now, but you got to be paying attention to what they're doing for your fantasy team. And maybe if it comes down the line, like Flip said, a couple weeks from now, 4 or 5 weeks from now, if they're still not living up to what you believe your expectations were for these players and a lot of other people's expectations for these players, again, you might have to start looking to facilitate a trade. You might have to take a little bit of a downgrade when doing so because they're not living up to those expectations.
Got to have your finger on the pulse. And when it comes to high expectations, that means you're going to have a lot invested into these pieces. And that's why you have to actually spend a little bit more time making sure that you're getting the most out of them, or else you might be behind the 8 ball before you can recover. And I think that's one of those interesting angles that I mentioned off the top of the show here, Steele. And yeah, going to pry a Tage Thompson, going to pry a Connor Hellebuyck, or any of these pieces off of a GM right now is going to be very tough because it is so early and they do bring so much value. But Timo Meier continues to struggle in New Jersey, Steele. Maybe you can pry a guy like that off who then turns it around. These are hard things to predict. But what you can't do is sit idly by 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season and not start pulling the trigger on some waiver wire moves, proposing some trades. And that was what today's angles were all about. But Steele, the angles of today's show also continue in the betting realm. I believe we have a 12-game NHL betting board on tap for Thursday night. Where are you looking first? It's been a good start to the season for both of us overall. You're back, baby. And I want to hear what you have to say about Thursday's action.
Yeah, a lot of games for Thursday night. I've got 3 bets that, to me, really stuck out, as well as that I'm really liking heading into Thursday. First pick, I'll list off all 3. Flames on the money line against the Buffalo Sabres. They have won the last 5 games in Buffalo against the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm taking the Flames on the money line. I'm sticking with that trend. And honestly, they've looked really, really good. I know it was a tough loss against the Washington Capitals the other day. They were up 2-0. They were dominating. Next thing you know, they lose in a shootout to that Evgeny Kuznetsov spectacular, very slow shootout move. Yes. But I'm going to take the Flames on the money line because I've really liked what I've seen from Noah Hannafin. I like what I'm seeing from Dylan Dubé. I like what I'm seeing from Andrew Mangiapane. And Jonathan Huberdeau's looked pretty good as well. So Flames money line, first pick. Second pick, Oilers on the money line against the Philadelphia Flyers on the road. Again, I said that they were going to come out guns a-blazing against the Nashville Predators. They scored 4 in the first period. They won 6-1. The puck line hit for me, but I'm going to play it a little bit safer now on the road against the Philadelphia Flyers. Oilers money line. And my lock of the night, Mika Zibanejad, anytime goal against the Nashville Predators. He has 4 assists. He's got 8 shots in the first 3 games. He's going to get his first one against the Nashville Predators, and you can lock that in.
I love it all, Steele. And I like these angles that we're starting to take early on in the season to build this bankroll up, baby. We're here every single night. My bad, little bit of technical difficulties for Wednesday's episode, but we will be here Monday through Friday, and every single night we're putting up picks. We're trying to break these down in short order so that you can make a little bit of money. How interesting is it, Steele, that at the start of the season, don't look now, but how about Jordan Binnington with a .969 save percentage, 2 games, I understand, but that's 2 good teams in Seattle and Dallas that they've gone up against. Let me just bring that up. I think it was Seattle and Dallas.
It's paining me to hear about.
I know, but I just need to bring it up. And it was Seattle and Dallas. They lose 2-1, and then they beat Seattle 2-1. The point is here, the games have been going under the number. Arizona rolls into town in a St. Louis angle here that I wanted to take the Blues, but I'm going to take the under. Give me the under 6.5. I really like this angle. And then when I dig into the numbers a little bit more, how about 15 of the last 20 trips Arizona has made to St. Louis? And I know that's going back a while, but I'll take it. They've all gone under the number. So that's pick number 1, Steele. Give me the under in this St. Louis, Arizona game. It just feels like it. Now, Colorado at home against the Chicago Blackhawks. I wanted to absolutely just hammer the Colorado Avalanche. So that be might making a side bet because they are 8-2-0 in their last 10 against Chicago. But man, Mikko Rantanen needs some more respect on his name.
Yes,
I know
he
that
does.
He opened the year with a 4-piece, 2 goals, 2 assists. Then he goes quiet. Then he comes back with another goal, 3 goals, 2 assists to open the year. But when I dig into the old numbers in his career against Chicago, how about 10 goals, 18 assists in 20 games for almost 30 points in 20 games? So give me Rantanen over 1.5 total points, anytime points. And my lock of the night, the Edmonton Oilers put a bunch of critics to bed the other night with a really, really good 6-1 showing. They showed out. I know it was Nashville, but they showed out. They turned the page, and I expect them to continue to get wins against teams. Let's be honest here. The Philadelphia Flyers are off to a pretty solid start, but this is the Edmonton Oilers, and I think now that confidence boost is under their wings, they are going to steamroll here. Give me the Oilers on the money line, minus 190. You're not getting a ton of value, so throw it into a parlay. And I know they're 5-3-2 against the Flyers over their last 10, so they have struggled a little bit, but that's points in 7 of 10. That's how I'm looking at that, Steele. And I think they just go on a little bit of a run here because they are more than good enough. I don't know who the goaltender is going to be. My goodness, that's a whole other conversation.
That Campbell looked good the other night.
He did, and it's making me nervous as a Stuart Skinner GM.
Yeah, it is.
But let's hammer the Oilers on the money line, minus 190 as my lock of the night.
I've got that with you right there. Oilers money line, Flames money line, Zibanejad anytime goal for the lock of the night. Oilers money line for Flip's lock of the night. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find all of our episodes. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
Buying tickets to see your favorite NHL team shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
The NHL season is here, and the best way to find all the insights and reactions for every team all season long is with Locked On NHL. Don't miss a second of the season. Available every day for 30 minutes on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.